My name is Ned Colbert. I'm Communications Coordinator at NAESP, and I'm just here with three very special conference attendees who are here to record a podcast live at the 2023 Pre-K through 8 Principals Conference. So I'm excited to be joined by, let's start with the person in front of me.
Yeah, hey, I'm Danny Bauer. I'm a Principal Development and Retention Expert. I am a best-selling author, and I host two of the world's most downloaded podcasts. Danya, why don't we pass it to you?
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I am Dr. Danya Tiara Woods. I currently serve as an assistant principal at an elementary school, Joseph E. Johnson in Wilmington, Delaware. And this is my third year in leadership.
Awesome. My name is Brian Miller. I am the new principal at North Middle School in Great Falls, Montana, and I'm glad to be here. So thank you.
Great. Glad to have you guys here. And I guess just to kick things off, trying to just have a casual conversation about your experience at conference so far, but maybe a good idea would be to discuss what you're getting out of it and hopefully what you plan on doing to prepare yourself for the school year.
Awesome. So, for me, I think the opportunity to speak is always huge. Mm-hmm. I love school leaders. That's why I'm here. And so to be able to, this session, I talked about creating more space in your calendar and that kind of thing. And when it comes to that, one of the interesting things I saw is, hey, when you build your calendar out for the year, what goes on first? And, what was interesting to see with people, they talked about the operations of school, right? And that's a great answer, and then folks provided a number of answers, but the correct answer is actually you. Mm-hmm. You need to put you on the calendar first, then your family, and then the school operations. So hopefully that's making sense, right?
Yeah.
And so just to remind school leaders, when you're preparing in that deep strategic think time that you need, don't forget that the school stuff's going to come, but don't forget about yourself and forget about your family. Mm-hmm. So yeah, pleasure to speak as always, and just remind leaders how important they are and that they're worth it. But yeah, how's the conference been for everybody else?
I would say for me, I'm just super excited to be here. It's my first time, and just being able to,
I said, hey now.
Yeah. Being able to connect and to collaborate with so many different leaders from all across the world is really exciting. And I'm also excited about the content that I've been learning. I'm really here to, as our theme is, to level up my leadership. And I have been just reminded about the things that I need to do. I know our keynote speaker, Houston Kraft, was saying to go from doing to being. And we were having a really great conversation amongst my assistant principals from Wilmington, Delaware about that. And I was just reminded, yeah, you can create that to-do list, but what do you want to show up as? How do you want to connect with teachers? How do you want the community to receive you? Especially with me going to a new elementary school, this is more of an opportunity for me to create that, or to really not create, I would say, just flow in what I've been practicing all these years. So I'm excited about that, and all that I'm going to be able to get over the next few days as well.
Well, okay, you're not off the hook yet, Brian. We'll get to you. But so, Danya, when you're talking about that doing to being shift, right? And so I get that conceptually, intellectually. But when you think about that idea, how do you answer that for yourself?
I would just say for me, it's authentically showing up as myself no matter where I am. Even if I have to say something that may be a little hard to receive, just knowing how to actually approach that conversation, but just not shying away from who I know I am as a leader. And like I said, just showing up as that person in every place that I am, whether it be the cafeteria, the front office, and just helping the school to really be the best that it can be with all that I have.
Awesome. Cool. Brian, how about you?
Yeah, I appreciate that, because it's so simple to walk into a conference and find plans on what to do, right? Like how to set up your calendar, how to set up management to be with your teachers or with your discipline or whatever. But there also needs to be a plan on how to be that person, right? So even just intentionally, we can't just come into the school day. I don't know how you guys feel, but I can't just walk into the school day and anticipate and believe I'm going to have a great day with great interactions. I actually have to have a plan, a mindset, and a purposeful mindset of when the crisis comes, when the interactions come, when the hardships come, I have a plan of how I'm going to get my mind ready, get my body ready, get that conversation ready. And so a conference like this kind of does a great job of doing both, right? Like you have the very tangible, this is what my day is going to look like, but then also the inspiration of this is the kind of person I want to be, and here's how I'm going to be that person.
So let me ask you this too, Brian, as a follow-up. Sometimes when you're thinking about, and this connects with what Danya was saying too, in terms of being authentic, like there are barriers
Sure.
to being the real you.
Sure.
And yesterday at lunch, it was a nice lunch.
It was a great lunch.
It was a great lunch.
Yeah.
And you were talking about fear, right?
Yeah.
So, and you have some interesting thoughts around that. So can you just unpack or riff on how fear can get in the way?
Remind me what I said.
Well, it's just mostly like you were talking about how you see a trend.
Oh, yeah.
In education, like, hey, Danny, are you seeing this with teachers, school leaders?
Yeah. I'd be curious of all your perspectives, but as I interact with friends who are teachers, fellow colleagues who are administrative leaders, there's this desire, to steal Danny's phrase, to be a ruckus maker, right? To make a difference.
Okay.
Right? With that desire or with that ability, there is a fear of backlash. They're not just the tangible on the Facebook posts or whatever they say about you on social media, but also the fear of losing your job. And so how do you go about making the change that needs to happen, loving people in a way that sometimes is difficult, right? Because you have to have difficult conversations and make difficult decisions. And I think a lot of that goes back to, again, a plan of how you're going to be, because if you are going to suffer some consequences, whether it's unfair or not, if you have exercised the plan of the person you're going to be, there's confidence in that, right? Like, I'm going to have this consequence. I'm going to have this bad thing happen, but I know I'm a man of integrity or a woman of integrity. I know I've done the right thing, and I didn't just react. I proactively anticipated how I'm going to be this person in these difficult moments. And so there is fear in education. We're public leaders, and we make hard decisions and we impact lives. And so at times there's backlash. But I know for me, I'm assuming for some of you, when you've endured those hardships, when I can look back and say, I still held to my integrity. I still did the right thing. And this is at times an unfortunate consequence. There's a confidence in that, and there's a peace in that.
Yeah. Well, I think when you're fully aligned, right, and integrated, with who you are, so you can show up as that authentic person. But yeah, Danya, I don't know if you have anything to add, but in terms of things that might get in the way for you, like, can you anticipate some stuff that might throw you off your game, and how are you going to pivot, and get around that stuff to show up as real?
With it being a new school, I know that I feel like I'm going to have to start all over in a sense. Like, there is some background of who Dr. Woods is from me being at another elementary school and serving as assistant principal. But for this staff, it's new. I was thinking about this even before coming to the conference, just listening and learning this year. I really want to take that approach and praising as well, just really making those connections that are necessary for me to build those relationships with the teachers, as well as the parents, as well as the community, and just supporting the principal with what her vision, her mission, her goals are, but just more so taking an approach of being a collaborator with everyone. Still inserting, if I think that something should change here, or if I have an experience here, how we can, better support in certain areas. But just more so taking that approach of listening and learning so that I can be a better collaborator with individuals this year.
Got it. Well, I have one more question too. I'm just curious. So we talked a little bit in terms of, how the conference has been for you, and the idea now. I really like where we landed in terms of being authentic, right, and showing up, and this idea of being. But just from everything you're learning, how do you plan to implement and integrate that into, your entry plan as you start off next school year?
There's a phrase that, do you mind if I step in?
Yeah,
Sorry to step on your toes there.
I mind.
Thank you.
No worries.
One of the phrases that I've adopted recently in this very technologically savvy and phone world is make the intangible tangible. And so whatever these plans are that you find here, I have to find ways to make them tangible in an object sometimes, right? So give object lessons even to my staff, like, hey, here's our theme for the year, or here's some of our goals for the year. How can I make that an object? Whether it's like I go to Home Depot and find something clever, or even just like a picture that you print off and you put on their desks, you flood the hallways. We need to have anchors that we can tangibly see, that when hardships come, when we get busy, when we get distracted, there's this thing that I stumble across, or that I can see on my desk, or I can see in the hallway, that reminds me, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. This is what we're about.
You're talking about being grounded.
Being grounded.
Yeah, that's
there
great.
it is.
How about you, Danny?
I would say for me, I agree with having something tangible to look back on and to really remind myself of, what I learned when I came here. Because oftentimes when you go to conferences, you get, so excited with all the information and you're like, oh, I'm about to do this, 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 and this. And it's like, the school year started. Yeah, it's just like
somehow gets
something just distracts you and you're like, well, what was I talking about? Or what did my notes say? And then the notebook just gets buried somewhere. But I really want to have a conversation with my principal and share with her all the great things that I learned. I actually created a document that has the theme, or whether it be questions I still have, or key points of various sessions. And I've shared that with her electronically so that she can begin to see the topics that we're talking about. So I can, like you said, align with what the school's vision and mission is. Because I'm serving as an assistant to the principal. But I want to make sure that all the great things that we learned here are in some way applicable to what we're doing within the school if needed.
I love that questions I still have. It's a great component to take away from. That really allows you to wrestle with the content and make it personal.
Absolutely.
I don't have all the answers from this conference, but I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
That's great.
Permission to give you some feedback. So one thing, and I'm talking to Danya, but I'm really talking to all the leaders that attended this conference. Like, you get so excited, right? You wrote down all this stuff, especially if you came to my session, right?
Yeah,
okay,
of course.
But you have all these ideas, all these things you want to implement, and so you're going to bring that enthusiasm back to the campus. Just go slow, right?
Yeah.
Because if you try to recreate the conference experience for the leader or the teachers that are there, it'll be like the drinking from the metaphorical, fire hose or fire hydrant, right? So
my wife always hates it when I come back from a conference because I'm fired up about something. I wasn't there.
So just be strategic. Like, what do you think they need to hear? And then roll it out slowly.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Last question. I know I said that before, but that's what I always do.
Sure.
So what's like the one thing that you just want to leave a school leader who's listening to this show, like the one thing that you just want them to know?
Want them to know.
Yeah, sorry. So like about school leadership, right? So in terms of this conference experience, like a big idea, maybe an insight that you had. Sorry for the bad question.
No, it's a great question. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to tag on to what you were saying a little bit earlier, just in regards to being strategic, but also I would say start small. Sometimes we try to conquer the world or conquer whatever we're challenged with for that school year. But I would say break it down, like really just start small, get those small wins in there, feel successful with, the incremental things, and then continue on. But don't try to take on entirely too much. I was that person, kind of telling myself. And I have really big ideas. I was even talking to my assistant principals from Wilmington, Delaware yesterday, and they were saying, just, don't try to take on entirely too much. Like, you're young, yes, but we don't want you to burn out. You can't do that every year. So delegating to others, starting small, and just continuing to focus on what the mission is and the vision is for the school.
Awesome. How about you? The one thing, Brian?
I think the one thing that I often come away from any conference is I can go home excited for sure, but I also come back sometimes really discouraged of like, I'm not a Dr. Woods, right? I don't have a best-selling book or a best...
Not yet.
Right. Maybe not yet. But you can sometimes come away and you realize all the things that you're not. Right. And it can be sometimes discouraging. But there's a phrase and even like an animal that I kind of find myself attaching to. But the phrase is like, you're here. You are the principal. And you have a ton of weaknesses. You have a ton of challenges. You're not Joe Sanfilippo. You're not a Danny Bauer. You're not all these people, but you are in the building and you have strengths and you have abilities. And one of the animals that I have actually hanging up on my wall, my school, North Middle School, is the grizzlies.
I'm glad you answered that because I was thinking the whole time, what's the animal? So
I'm getting there. Okay. So we're the grizzlies, and grizzlies are an incredibly intimidating animal. And we would like to be that grizzly sort of boss, right? That's like confident and powerful and that can move things and shake things. But in reality, at least for myself, I'm a llama, which is just like this crazy, weird looking, awkward thing.
Did you see that coming?
No, I didn't. That's why I said.
Yeah. So I have this phrase for my own self, and I share it in the conferences that I present, is lead like a llama, because a llama doesn't have anything intimidating. It has nothing. But farmers will put llamas to protect their sheep.
How about that?
And a llama by itself will just look in the mirror and say, I don't have claws. I don't have fangs. I'm not intimidating. but no one's getting to my sheep, and they will defend against the wolves and against foxes and against all these predators. And I'm
Love
like,
that.
that's what I can do. I can be that. So look in a mirror. I'm here. I'm a llama, and I'm going to protect my people.
Awesome. Well, hey, school leaders, be a llama, right?
Be a
That's
llama.
good place to end. Ned, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add here at the end.
No, just glad to have you guys here. Brian, Danya, Danny. So nice of you to join us, and hope you had a great conference experience so far, and we'll have a great one as it continues. And to everyone listening, thank you for spending this time with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.